Can marshes be sexy? Can you really have babies without having sex? Man, what in the world is going on in Mesopotamia? In this video, Megan examines sexual metaphor in ancient Mesopotamia, particularly in the south, around the city of Eridu. It's an exciting video that you don't want to miss. So like the video, subscribe, and come along for the ride.
Hello again everybody, welcome to episode 3 in our Sex and Eroticism in Mesopotamian Literature series. This focuses on the watery south, that is the theology from the city of Eridu in southern Mesopotamia. So first we're going to consider the geography of Eridu. We touched on this briefly in our last video, but we'll go into a little bit more detail here. We're going to look at some vocabulary that pops up quite regularly, the words Enki and Abzu, two of the main deities, Nammu and Enki, and finally the erotic connotations of Marshland. I bet you didn't know that Marshland had erotic connotations. Well, I'm prepared to be educated. So, the geography of Eridu. The city is in southern Mesopotamia and was situated at the edge of extensive marshes. These marshes were characterized by reed thickets and expansive pools of water, and it occurs quite regularly as a location in literary and mythological texts. In this region, water is both the primary geographical feature and of fundamental importance for the economy. Mesopotamian production of food, especially in southern Mesopotamia, depends on artificial irrigation for crop production. The south didn't have enough rainfall to rely on that for farming purposes, so people had to build canals and irrigate their fields that way. Because of its importance, water comes to symbolize well-being, fertility, and creation. The first two words that we're going to look at, Enki and Abzu. Enki is the cuneiform sign associated with the city of Eridu. The main temple there is also called the Engora, which literally means the house of the Enki. The sign Enki can also be read as Nammu, we'll come to that in a minute, but this is synonymous with the term Abzu, which you may remember from some of our other videos. The Abzu was water under the ground that was both ritually and mythologically important. This can be seen both in the mythological texts, but also in the fact that temples throughout Mesopotamia contained basins or pools that symbolized this Abzu. In this southern context then, water, rather than the sky or the earth, is understood as the divine realm. The two main figures in this theology are Nammu and Enki. Nammu is essentially the personification of the Enki, the personification of the Abzu. She is described as the mother who gave birth to heaven and earth. She's also described as the one who gave birth to the gods of the universe and mother of everything. She is a mother with no spouse and is able to create life spontaneously without the need for heterosexual reproduction. She doesn't have a particularly significant role in the literary corpus, and Like argues that she may be from an older generation of Sumerian or pre-Sumerian deities, or possibly exists as a result of the tendency of Mesopotamian people to personify natural forces. Instead of being a significant personality in her own right, she is simply the personification of the Abzu water. Eridu is also famous as the location of a temple sequence dating back to the late 6th millennium BCE. Cuneiform records from the 3rd millennium at this temple suggest that it was associated with the god Enki, who is understood as the son of Nammu. He is a trickster god, you've probably come across him before, he's quite famous, and famously also he lives within the Abzu waters. So again we see this recurring theme of water, the supernatural realm, and also of creation, because Enki pops up quite a lot as a kind of fertility deity. The bit you've all been waiting for, the erotic connotations of Marshland. As Nammu, the embodiment of the Abzu water and associated with the marshlands, was, as I said, a mother with no spouse, there doesn't appear to have been much importance in this theology of reproduction via heterosexual mating. That doesn't mean that there are no erotic connotations with this theology, however, hence the marshlands having erotic connotations of their own. Marshes are often places that are the settings for erotic encounters in mythology. Again, we'll come across this probably next week. And they also carry what Like describes as sensuous overtones of a feminine and or autoerotic kind. So we have connotations of floral and faunal abundance, but also things like soft mud and seeping moisture, which she links with feminine sexuality. This parallels, she says, with one of the ancient Egyptian cosmogonies, that of the city of Heliopolis, in which the creator god Atum sits on an island and masturbates, creating a heterosexual, although somewhat incestuous, lineage of gods. So again, it's reproduction without the need for a divine pairing. It's reproduction with just a single individual. So, in summation, the southern Eridu cosmogony focuses around the life-filled marshes. These marshes are embodied as the mother goddess Nammu, who, as I said, is a mother with no spouse, and despite the lack of sexual reproduction, the marshes still carry quite significant erotic overtones. Next time, we'll be looking at the northern Nippur model. And remember, always ask, how do you know that?